Farm Talk on CFRU 93.3 FM. Welcome to another edition of Food Farm Talk, where we celebrate food and honor those who champion the cause of food in society.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting edition of Food Farm Talk. It's Thursday morning, and I'm your co-host, Emily Duncan, here. And today we're going to be talking about an exciting topic, important to agriculture, compost. Today I have with me Natalie Vasilivetsky, who's our compost coordinator here at the University of Guelph. We're super excited to have her here today. We're going to be talking about compost and how it relates to the circular food economy. And so there's been a lot of buzz in Guelph lately about the circular food economy. And so we're going to dive in a little bit to what that means. As you may have heard, that the City of Guelph won the federal Smart Cities Challenge, and we've been awarded $10 million to build Canada's first circular food economy through a program called Our Food Future. And so we're going to be talking about some of the things that are already occurring in Guelph that are working towards this, and hopefully give some tips and tricks about how you can start to participate in this circular food economy at home, even if you don't work in agriculture. So super excited to have you here today, Natalie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and so give you a chance maybe just to introduce yourself a bit and tell us about yourself and your role as the compost coordinator here at the University of Guelph.
Great, thanks so much. So my name is Natalie, and I'm the composting coordinator at the University of Guelph.
Just tell us a bit about yourself. Like, what is your educational background? How did you come to be in this role?
So I took a bit of an unconventional path. I actually, I studied environmental anthropology and philosophy. So nothing really to do with environmental science or compost, but I feel like a lot of things stem back to relating to the environment anyway. So I got involved because I was really interested in vermicomposting, and this was about 6 years ago, and I came to the sustainability office, and I wanted some information about worms.
That's super cool. And so for people who don't know, what exactly is vermicomposting?
So vermicomposting is, I guess you can have a lot of different systems in a lot of different settings. You can use it on farms, but the way that I kind of got excited about it was that you could use it in a city, in an urban setting. So it was a way to kind of do something agricultural, but in a city setting, which was interesting to me. So the way that I do it, I just have a bucket and I have worms in it, and I put all my food waste in it. And then after, I can take the castings out, and it's amazing compost for my garden.
That sounds awesome, and a good source of nutrients for your garden from the worms. Where do you get the worms from?
Usually you would buy them. They're not your regular worms. You can use night crawlers, or you can use a worm called the red wiggler. But I actually, I was lucky enough to, when we were harvesting some of the compost bins on campus, I opened one bin, and it was just like the most amazing, rich soil. And I was like, I know what's going on here. So I dug into it a little bit, and there were some absolutely gorgeous worms. So I grabbed a cardboard box, and I shoveled them in there. And that was maybe 4 years ago. And I just kind of have been breeding them ever since, just from those ones, because I knew they were composting worms because they were in the composter and they had like crawled up and process the material. So yeah, that's where I got mine, but that was a kind of a strange circumstance. Not many people are just walking around harvesting compost bins. Yeah.
What happens to them in the winter? Because I assume is your compost bin inside or outside?
Mine's inside. So like I was really interested in it, like for like we do a lot of work with the Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming, but I was also really interested in kind of doing it inside an apartment. Like, what can a city dweller in a concrete jungle do for the environment that's really good? and I found this.
And I think some things that people would wonder, if you keep your compost inside with its worms, does it smell?
So they kind of, they're communicative. So if anything is bad in your compost bin, it'll start to smell. And after a while of keeping worms, you start kind of realizing, like, oh, this smells like I need more carbon-rich material. I'm going to put some newspaper in it. Or, ooh, this smells like it needs more aeration. So it's kind of, it gets to the point where it's pretty intuitive. And if you open up your bin, like my bin right now smells like the forest floor. Like, it's incredible. You open it and you're like, wow, that's such a great smell. But, if I didn't stir it for a while, I'd be like, oh man, this doesn't smell very good. I should stir it. But the other thing that's amazing about worms is that if you keep them, they actually aerate the compost for you, because they'll just crawl through and take oxygen with them. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, their movements are kind of turning it over. So yeah, this is super interesting. It sounds like you've been interested in composting for a long time, both kind of at a personal level of being an urban dweller in Guelph, but then also now in this role as the composting coordinator at the University of Guelph. And so kind of on a bigger scale, the university is producing lots of waste every day. We've talked about this on other shows about, the plastic use at the university. And now we're starting to think about, beyond that, what about food waste and what are we doing with that? So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the story of how the compost system at a university came to be how it was. Because I know, sometimes people have questions of that. We see some compost bins on campus and different departments have different systems. What did it start as?
There's a lot going on. So I guess I'll go into some compost lore. So back in the ancient time of 2012, there used to be a Williams in the library. Do you remember the Williams in the library?
So that's before my time at Guelph.
It's a while ago. But there was a student, and her name was Carolyn Chan. And legend has it, anyway, Carolyn Chan, so she approached this magical woman named Martha, who works at the Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming right here on campus. And she said, can we get some composting going? And Martha was like, well, we need some material. And they were like, well, what can we use? We can use coffee grinds. So they approached the staff at Williams, and they were probably confused. And they said, we want your coffee grinds. So somehow they agreed on that. And Carolyn had a bucket or some kind of something on wheels, hopefully. And she took their coffee grinds and she walked them from the library to behind East Res, by the water tower where the Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming is. And thus the composting program at the University of Guelph was born. And she would go there, she would collect the coffee grinds, bring them to the farm, and they had some worms going, and they dug a trench and they started composting. And then, as legend has it, she approached the sustainability office and said, well, I wonder if we can get people to volunteer for this. And it blossomed. We got our first collection room in the basement of McNaughton, and volunteers would pick up compost bins from all over campus, from different coffee shops, and they would bring them to a centralized location, and sustainability office staff would take them with a truck this time to the farm. And when I inherited this program, I was like, oh my God, are people gonna volunteer to do this? And I was overwhelmed with emails. There was one year I probably had 40 something volunteers that were just like I had to start turning people away because we were flooded with volunteers. I never turned people away, but I just said oh, you want to volunteer at the farm instead? But we don't need anyone to pick up compost anymore because we have people, which was amazing. The community really came together, and then people started noticing, and they were like, wow, students really care. Because a lot of when you try to put in a program like composting, people are like, oh, people don't care. Oh, people aren't going to do it. But that really wasn't true. There were so many people. There was so much passion. And physical resources kind of noticed that, wow, people are really starting to want this. Hospitality services. Basically, we decided that we wanted to try to take on Creelman Hall Kitchen.
That's a big one.
Everyone thought we were absolutely losing it. And they were like, you think you can take on Creelman Hall Kitchen? And nobody had really any faith, and they thought it was, for the most part, I got a lot of like, I don't think this is going to work. No one's going to sort their waste. It's not going to work. You're not going to be able to do this. But we pulled through, and it went really well. And staff at Croman Hall, there's a chef, Chef Valerie there, and she was extremely supportive. And so we got a composting program going through that kitchen. And slowly we were like, we need some staff if we're going to run this. Like, this is a lot of waste. You need steel-toe boots, you need equipment, you need a truck. We need big bins, we need 100-liter bins. So we moved from the little bins that volunteers moved around to these big honkin' bins. So we needed some staff. So Physical Resources agreed, and they gave us some students. And then we were like, well, like, why don't we put another coffee shop on the rotation, like a bigger one, like Starbucks, something huge. And it just kind of exploded from there. And eventually we said, we want to try the university center. And again, people looked at us and they were like, do you really think you can do this? Like, and there was a lot of like skepticism, but a lot of like cautious optimism on our end. And I honestly, going into it, I was like, I don't know if we can do this, but let's try. And it went really well, and Chef VJ at the University Kitchen has been absolutely phenomenal, and Chef Andrew, and they've been so amazing to work with, and they've been so communicative with us, and so it really came to be, and we really worked together. So now we have all the coffee shops, and there's one kitchen we're missing, but I honestly haven't even just gotten there yet. But hopefully by the end of the summer. So that's all of our before the plate waste that we're doing right now. So that's pretty exciting.
That's super exciting that this program has just really blossomed over just, the past couple of years, starting from just a small coffee shop in the library to including some of our biggest producers on campus. And
Absolutely.
So when you say it's before the plate, like that's all the scraps and things that are happening in food preparation?
Exactly. So just like we say, so it's all the stuff like onion peels and the tops of pineapples and that kind of stuff. And what's really amazing about that is that there's no contamination basically at all. If I find like one plastic straw, I'm like, hey guys, like there's a plastic straw in here. And they're like, oh wow, she's really she's nuts. And I say, I guess we don't have a sorting facility on campus, so all of our stuff from coming out of these kitchens is completely clean, and that's because the chefs care, and because they know, because they go to the Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming, and they know that if they let a plastic straw in there or something, like one of the women at the farm is going to have to sort that out, or we're gonna have to sort that out. So it's kind of like it's interesting because it's a different relationship with your waste. You know where it's going, and it's no longer waste. It's now a valuable resource that is going somewhere, and being used. So you're careful with it.
Yeah, it sounds like the relationships and the partnerships between these different organizations have been key to making this project a success. Between the Sustainability Office, Hospitality Services, and the Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming. That you guys have all really kind of work together to help this grow and be able to do something with this quote unquote waste that is now becoming something very valuable.
Yeah, because we used to pay a lot of money to have it shipped off of campus into the landfill, which doesn't make any sense. There's use for it here. There's so many farmers all around Ontario that I'm sure would absolutely love to have some food waste brought to their farm. It's a valuable product.
Yeah. And so before the compost makes it on being spread on the farm, where does it go? How is it, you have these 100-liter bins, kind of what is the chain of, I've thrown my, so it's all before the plate. So it's not like me eating an apple peel and throwing it in a compost bin.
No, we have those too, but those are, that's a whole different system that we have. So for those, we have stationary bins. Just your average backyard bin composter, which is the backyard bin composters are also really interesting because in a lot of places you wouldn't think that they would work, but they would. They do. If you're in your own backyard and you're using a backyard composter, then you know exactly what you're putting in there. But if you put one, in the wild with a whole bunch of students around, it's kind of like, you're wondering, like, is this going to be usable compost in the end? And the answer is sometimes. The answer is it really depends. There's a lot of things that we consider around where we put it. And, for instance, like Day Hall, like the open learning people there, that office, they have a composter in front of their office, and the Hersey building has a composter in front of their office, and they compost all their, office food waste and coffee grinds, and we get excellent compost from there.
That's awesome. So there's a few like kind of after the plate.
There's many
ones spread out over campus.
I think we have like 5 systems or something all working in tandem. It's there's a lot going on.
So with the bigger system, so like let's say I buy my coffee in the UC, and those coffee grounds, then they get picked up by your awesome team of volunteers, and then where do they go after that? So
if it was any other example except for the UC, it would be volunteers. But since the UC is like the UC and the UC is absolutely mammoth with the amount of coffee grinds they produce. In Starbucks and the library, actually, there was one day, infamously, so if you can imagine a 100-liter bin, during exams, there was one day that we had 400 liters of just grinds coming out of that Starbucks. So you need staff with steel-toe boots to move those. It was amazing. And it's also interesting, like during exam period, the volume of food goes down and the volume of coffee goes up. So I can measure your exam stress in coffee compost volume.
That's too funny. I can only imagine.
You're talking about the process. So from there, from the University Center in particular, so in the University Center garbage room, which anyone can go and take a look if they really want to, so the brass taps and the University Center coffee services, catering services, I think that's it for the UC that we pick up for right now, and that Tim Hortons and the Starbucks. So they bring their stuff down the elevator, they bring it to the garbage room, our staff picks it up and weighs it all, and then brings it to the farm. And then from there it gets put into a pile, and then we turn it and monitor the temperature. And eventually it sits for a while. We put a tarp over it, kind of spread it out, add some wood chips. Actually, our carbon material, the one we use the most, is wood chips from our very own arborists on campus come and bring the wood chips. So it's all very, very local. And then the compost sits, it becomes great compost, thanks to all the women at the farm. And then they spread everything on the field, and amazing stuff grows, and the hospitality services comes and they buy most of it now. So that food that you get in the salad bar in the UC, your pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving at Creelman, that's all stuff grown 924 meters away at our very own Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming. So it's really a cycle, and then you eat the stuff, and then the scraps, the peels of the pumpkin or whatever, are taken back to the farm, and the soil is given its nutrients back.
Wow, that's so awesome. And I think a lot of people might not know that we're doing this kind of cycling of nutrients so locally. Mm-hmm. And like you said, 924 meters, can't get much more local than that.
It's amazing.
And it seems like it's a pretty low infrastructure type solution of that. Absolutely. You're just throwing it in a pile, you're adding wood chips that we have available from the Arboretum, and turning it, and you said monitoring the temperature. Mm-hmm. How do you do that?
We have a big temperature probe. It's like a huge thermometer. So we do that.
And does it stay covered, or you mentioned a tarp? Do you not want it to be rained on, or?
Yeah, but you don't want it to get too wet, otherwise the nutrients can leak away. So you need some kind of rain cover for it.
That makes sense. And so kind of getting back to this idea of the circular food economy, we talked about, how these nutrients are being cycled through. What exactly does circular food economy mean to you?
Ooh, to me, I guess it means that we take care of the soil and the environment, and kind of everything just kind of works together. I guess it's like, instead of a linear system where I take my apple core, I throw it in the trash, and hope for the best. I know where that's going, and it's going to somewhere that's productive, and then it's not going to sit and turn into methane in the landfill. It's going to keep going. That apple still has that apple core is still a valuable thing that keeps going, and it gives nutrients back to the soil, and then that soil is healthy, and then we can grow more food. It's sustainable, and it's, I guess, like more holistic. And I don't know, in our case in particular, like this, it's not necessary for a circular food economy for everyone to know each other, but in our case, like I know the chefs, and they're great, and they take a lot of pride in the food that they cook, and they're also really excited when they get some of Martha's heirloom tomatoes. And Martha is really excited about the compost that she gets, and we're really excited to watch the food grow. And we're also, we like composting. Like it's enjoyable for us. It's very physical. We're out there in the rain, we're out there in the snow, but at the end of the day, you can tell yourself, okay, I just did 3 hours of work, and I just diverted 1,000 kilograms of waste from landfill with my hands, and that's a really good feeling.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of kind of immediate rewards to it, and that you develop this personal relationship with
community. Yeah,
it's
very personal for sure.
I think that's really great, and it helps people think more about what are we doing, like in terms of our waste, where is it going, and having, I think, the knowledge that on campus when we're generating this waste, that it actually isn't becoming waste, it's becoming a resource.
It's a resource, exactly. And then if you look at it as a resource, then you're more likely to take good care of it. And if you know where it's going, you're more likely to take good care of it. And it's amazing that, hospitality's always had a great, community, and the farm has always been a great community, and sustainability office has always had like a whole bunch of students and a great community there. But to see all three come together, and I think there was a kind of a landmark moment for me where I happened to be walking by the university center, and one of the chefs was like, yeah, this is our compost bin, and we take the food waste from here and we bring it to the university center garbage room, and then from there, the sustainability office picks it up and brings it to the Guelph Center for Organic Farming. And I'm like, wow, this is no longer my story. Like, I no longer have to walk around and repeat myself and say all these things, because it's everyone's story. Everyone's a part of it, and everyone is a part of the community, and they really care. And like, these chefs are so proud. Like, they got these hot chili peppers. I think they were chilies. They got these hot peppers from the farm, and they just made like a whole ton of hot sauce. And then you go to get a burger on campus, like in Creelman or the UC, and you can get hot sauce from peppers that were grown with food scraps from that kitchen. And somebody very proudly and happily brought those 924 meters. I looked that up on Google Maps. I was very excited about that. Yeah.
So thinking about our listeners at home who want to start generating this type of circular economy in their own household, like people can buy backyard compost bins, and then we also are very lucky to live in the city of Guelph, which actually picks up our compost and does something with it.
Fantastic.
They're processing that as well. So what would you say are kind of your best tips and tricks if you want to become a better composter?
Let me see. Get a compost bin that has air holes, so there's breathability. If you live in a student house, this is a little bit harder, but if you have less than, I don't know, I lived in a place, there's one fridge and 6 people, so it wouldn't be possible there. But if you have a freezer with some room in it, you can keep your compost in the freezer. Just take the whole bin and put it in there, and then you won't get any fruit flies, and you can take it out when you please. Not feasible for everyone, but if you can. If you want to get other people started, you can always pin something to your fridge that says, like, here are the things that go in there, here are the things that don't go in there. Because, like, for instance, on campus, different things go in than in the city because they have a different processing facility. We're low heat, they're very high heat, so they can take compostable bags. We can't, that kind of thing.
What other things shouldn't go in the compost? Or can you compost most things here?
Right now, we don't take meat. But come September, actually, I don't even know if I can say this on the radio, but I'm going to anyway.
Big announcement.
Big announcement right here on CFRU 93.3 FM. We're hoping to have, if everything goes well, composting in the university center cafeteria and in Creelman Hall, cafeteria, so you can brush your food scraps right into the compost. We're really hoping that we're working on that hard right now. Right now we're going through fire routes and things like that. So we're hoping that that's something that we can start up in September,
so exciting.
And then slowly take over the campus with compost.
Yeah, another avenue to keep waste out of the landfill and to continue to generate towards our circular food economy.
Exactly, because there's a lot of composting happening on campus. Within 8 months, we did over 100,000 kilograms of it in 8 months, like more than that. But it's all in places that students don't really see. They're not accessible. So that's something that we're really working on right now. They're all loading docks, the backs of kitchens, offices, like places that students don't really have access to. So, a lot of the times I'll have somebody say like, oh, why don't we compost? And it's like, oh my God, I compost so much every day. And so does our team of 11 people. But it's there, you just can't see it yet. But we're hoping to make it more accessible for everyone, because I think that everyone has the right to ethical waste disposal in this day and age.
I think that's so important. And that all these things are happening a little bit behind the scenes, but some of the next steps are bringing it to the forefront and making sure that, I love that term, everyone has the right for ethical waste. So I think that's super exciting, and it's amazing the work that you've been doing here on campus to kind of really let this take off. And like you said, over 100,000 kilograms of waste diverted. That's
we have a great, we just have a fantastic team of students. They're all the best. They're great.
I'm sure, because it sounds like these relationships with the different organizations on campus, your student volunteers have really been instrumental in getting this project going.
Yeah, and just the Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming is really like a haven. It's you go there and you can learn so much about organic farming, and they have all these amazing programs, and they have all these vegetables they have tomatoes and stuff too, but also these vegetables you've never seen before. I got some radishes there, and I was like, I think this is radish. It was black as coal, and I brought it home, and my grandmother, who's 93, was like, oh, this is a rechka, it's from the motherland, and she recognized this old radish. I was like, I have no idea what this is. I don't know how to cook it, but she knew what it was. And there's a lot of stuff like that, like bitter melon, things that are culturally relevant to a whole bunch of different people, and it's really amazing. So if you want to go down there, you should definitely send them an email and pop by. Yeah,
I think that we're so incredibly lucky to have a farm on our campus, the Guelph Center for Urban Organic Farming, only 924 meters away.
Yep.
And so we're kind of wrapping up the show, and I feel like I've learned so much about composting and kind of gotten a better idea of, what the microcosm of the University of Guelph's circular food economy is, and that hopefully that, as the Smart Cities Challenge unfolds, that our city and kind of at a larger scale will continue to move towards this cycling of nutrients and, the circular waste system rather than the linear waste system that you mentioned.
Absolutely, and never underestimate the power of, a few young students. A lot of people told us this wasn't feasible, we couldn't do it, and never kind of stopped trying, because we've built so much together, and it was just, persistence of student activism. That's what got us composting.
It's an amazing story, and I'm so glad that your efforts have paid off and that they're continuing to grow. So thank you so much for being here today. You've been listening to Natalie Vasilivetsky, the composting coordinator at the Sustainability Office at the University of Guelph. I just want to thank our listeners today for listening to us talk about the importance of compost to agriculture and importance to urban agriculture. and how we're working towards a circular food economy. This has been your host, Emily Duncan, and thank you again for listening to Food Farm Talk on CFRU 93.3 FM in Guelph, Ontario. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Food Farm Talk. See you next week for another exciting edition.